Rahim. Un, deux, test. Zéro indexage. Test de son. Test. Un, deux.
صباح الخير علا. علا, can you hear us? Speaker. مظبوط. صباح الخير, can you hear us? Okay, can you speak please until we make sure that we can hear you in the room? Try again. Thank you. We started to hear you. Just we're trying to switch to another speaker. ممكن تكلمي يا علا بعد إذنك تاني؟ Now we can hear you. Just carry on again. This one. Oh. صباح النور. We can hear you well and we can see you. So, okay, thank you. We're a bit delayed, but we should start soon. Thanks.
موجودين خمسة. اوكي هذا خلي على
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning online. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting. We're going to start and see how we get on. If you would like interpretation, I believe it's on, as yesterday, I'm guessing, the same channels. And I believe it was French was on one, English was on two. What's that mean? Was that Ola online? Were you saying you can't hear? I suppose you can't hear me saying that. Okay, good. Well, thanks. My name's Jim Robinson. I'm the co-coordinator of the Housing, Land and Property Area of Responsibility, which is part of the humanitarian coordination system, and it's supporting housing, land and property colleagues in 18 countries. And it's co-led by Norwegian Refugee Council and UN Habitat. And sort of our priority really in the humanitarian responses is about encouraging others to really consider the HLP issues. So in the shelter work they're doing, in the site management, WASH, anything that comes into contact with land in some way, we want them to ask the question, what's the impact of this on people's tenure security? Are we going to cause any problems further on without thinking about housing, land and property and doing our due diligence and understanding who has a claim to this land? So that's what we work on in the humanitarian context. And part of our argument is also that what we do in that crisis response has a massive impact on the longer term safety and security for affected people. So we try and also bridge between this emergency crisis response and then solutions and that longer term development. And that's where the work of our colleagues here today really comes in. So this morning we're going to focus on the impact of displacement and crisis and the role of housing, land and property in creating and working towards sustainable solutions that uphold people's dignity. Our presenters will explore diverse approaches to safeguarding HLP rights during crisis, and we'll hear about experiences from Yemen, Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, and Gaza's Khan Yunis governorate. We'll hear about land use dynamics, the impact of escalating conflict on displacement, the potential of HLP-sensitive urban law to actually prevent violence, the role of cultural resilience for youth, and the challenges of land management under war. So it's very good to be with you. I mean, we're a smaller group in the room, but I think it'll be great to hear from each other about our work, and we'll adjust the timing slightly to reflect the later start. But yeah, first I'd invite Muslim Kazemi, who's the head of country program from Iraq and Yemen with UN Habitat, to come and present his work in Yemen. Yes. Now, I'll waive this when we have, so we've got 5 presenters, we've got about an hour, so if we do 10 minutes, and I'll waive this at you 2 minutes before.
I'll be faster than you think, and we'll make sure to complete it in time. Okay, good morning everyone. As you mentioned, my name is Muslim Kazemi. I'm acting head of UN Habitat Yemen, but also I lead the program in Iraq. I've been working with Jim for quite many years on chairing the cluster, so we are familiar, but also my background is on HLP rights as well. Today I'm going to present a case and HLP issues and challenges we face in Yemen, which I'm sure it is challenging, interesting, but there is also a lot of opportunities. I don't know, Jim, if somebody is going to upload our presentation, so I can walk the colleagues through what we do. Okay, it's here. Okay, so basically I'm going to present the case on how we have deployed the STDM, Social Tenure Domain Model, which is interesting and very useful tool that has been implemented, and very successful story that has been implemented in Yemen. Do I operate with this one? I have it? Okay, sorry. Okay, good. We agree on, but it's not working. It's not working. Yeah. Pressing, but it's not working. Apologies, technical issues. But as you are, okay, now I got it, but I'm too far. Can I get back? Apparently it's reacting very late. Okay, until my, yeah, okay, so here is the remove, okay. And just to let you know that also UN Habitat in Yemen is not that has been a long time established its office. It's only in 2018. But we started with a very sustainable program where basically we have done the urban profiling, a project that was really a key driver for also other UN and NGOs on understanding the issues related to Yemen. So it was really a very good approach and very helpful. And of course, with, we have a very different type of intervention, which I'm not going, because of the sake of time, I'm not explaining this. So I'll go directly to the issues that we face in Yemen. And as I said, Yemen is a quite complex country in terms of housing, land and property rights, which also has many relations with other countries as well, which I also work in Iraq, so it's almost similar. But you can see that, for example, we see that land is quite driver of conflict within the community and tensions between communities when it comes to HLP rights. Only 10 to 20% of the land is registered, while 80 to 90% of the land is basically through the informal transaction. And that creates a huge gap in terms of recording and evidencing HLP rights. It's a huge bureaucracy, a lot of paperwork for waiting maybe sometimes 1 to 2 years to get your ownership documentations. There are numerous of legislation, very contradicting, very complex, and often also the legislative system finds it very difficult in order to decide on the land rights. So the security of tenure is quite complex, and it is worsened also with the current and humanitarian situation that is going on in Iraq. There are also in Yemen. Also, there are social restriction, traditional norms, tribal laws and norms that really create a huge complex. I'm not saying Sharia law because often people mix with the Sharia law. The Sharia law gives a pure property rights to women and men, and that often is misinterpreted by the traditional norms in order to find a way on how to discriminate specifically women. As I said, I don't know, it's not moving, Jim. I want to just to give you a quick background on how the national system and how the complex and unstable is the land management history, which usually goes with, as I said, there is no national cadastral system. We have a cadastral system which is unfortunately very poor and all paper-based. Most of the documents and evidence that is existing in the cadastral offices are destroyed and damaged because of the war. There was also flooding before a few years, which also all the property documentation were destroyed. And Yemen is really facing a lot of issues. And of course, there is also conflicting areas between state entities. Sometimes you will have some entities that rule basically the city or the governorate, while the official government have no role, and then often the documentation is subject to destruction or manipulation. The court system is overwhelmed with a lot of cases. There is a huge bottleneck. There is a huge gap in terms of judiciary system to address the HLP rights. And of course, it's also inadequate legal framework that protects HLP rights. This often is translated or converted into the forced evictions. Depends on the tribal that who is more powerful. Then they usually also evict forcibly IDPs and returnees, and specifically women, female-headed households are subject to this kind of forced eviction. Land grabbing is also a normal thing in Yemen, and it's something that we are very concerned, and we work on how to address that. We have a discrimination for women, and there is also a minority called Muhammadin who often are subject to the discrimination. But again, I want to highlight that it's also this discrimination due to the traditional and the cultural norms that discriminate the entities, not the legal system, not the Sharia law. disputes are massive, and I will say that is around 70% of the disputes occurs because of the no proper legal system and no official system on addressing HLP rights. Among the drivers in conflict in Yemen, as you can see here, is the social cohesion, a weakened foundation for peace, lack of stabilization of anchors, impended peaceful coexistence, and also, as I said, the systematic discrimination. The approach on addressing the HLP rights, as I said, is a religious legal approach, customary, informal legal, and lack of knowledge. Often you will see that the government or the institutions that's supposed to address the HLP rights